Willpower Zone with Will Berry.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Willpower Zone, the #1 personal development podcast that's out there. So we are on episode 11. Today's going to be a great one today. It's all about grit and really taking things to the next level through finding your grit. So let's go over the first thing today, which is really, what is grit? Grit, all that comes down to is really having the ability to push past the point of failure. And even when you've reached failure, having the ability to just push one more rep, one more mile, one more call, one more business meeting, whatever that may be for you, one more time in putting out that content, one more time in putting out that episode that's most meaningful to you. That's really what it comes down to as far as for grit. And for a lot of people, they miss out on the opportunity to be able to overcome the biggest things in their lives because they've never been at the point of being able to just push past the point of feeling the pain, the struggle, the setbacks, and everything else. So grit's very important. Grit is literally one of the biggest differences that makes, from people who are average to people who are above average, highly successful. They have a sense of grit, and especially, we've heard so many different, opportunities and stories from people, that are highly successful, that have used grit in the past, and people who are also doctors. Angela Duckworth, she talks about that, in her book, talking about grit, and just how valuable it is for people to really take things to the next level. But really, let's also talk about especially the power of grit. And the power of grit, basically, once you understand what it really takes, you can use that within any given aspect within your life, whether it's your business, whether it's your family, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your own spirituality, your own personal growth, whatever it is, you're going to have that type of attitude of saying, I'm going to push past, I'm going to give a little extra effort. And sometimes it literally is just like, if you're in the gym, and of course health and wellness especially is a big, part of, what we talk about on this show and on this podcast all the time. But, I reiterate it, especially, when you're just trying to grind it out, maybe just you're on the bench press and maybe you're just trying to squeeze out that last little bit of rep, and it's taking everything in you to push it up and push that weight up and push against, especially the tension that is pushing back against you. That's the grit that you're using, and it's very, very powerful. And you can use that experience that you had in pushing past that pain, because yes, it is going to be a struggle. Sometimes in order to push growth, you have to have tension that goes along with it in order so that things, you can move the needle. Because if you don't have that tension and everything's always comfortable and easy and everything else, then what's the point really when it comes down to it? So you have to have that. So I'll tell you kind of a story, especially for myself, where I was able to really use grit. So back in about 2020, during the pandemic, there was a lot of things going on during that time, and me, being the type of person that I am, I decided saying, hey, this is going to be the year that I'm going to compete in a bodybuilding show, with all the different setbacks and everything else. So early in the year, I already kind of set a date. It was going to be June when I was going to compete in my first bodybuilding show. When that date came up, with trying to scale down and, hardly eating and, loading up on the water and then kind of dialing it down. So of course I have the best, shape that I can be in, especially before the show. They delayed it, which is really, really tough, especially, when you're hardly, your calories are being cut, and, you're really having to kind of go to a very, very sometimes dark place to kind of get through to, staying consistent on the diet and doing all the things necessary that it takes to prepare for a show. When it's delayed, you're like, oh man, okay, I was trying to get past the point so I can refuel, retool, and then get on to the next show. So it was delayed by a couple months, so from June all the way to August. So of course I had to get back on it. My coach, of course, gave me all the instructions, gave me the plan that I needed to stay on track and everything. So I had to have some grit, because easily I could have thrown in the towel and say, hey, maybe it's just not my year to accomplish a big lifetime goal. But I said, you know what? No, I'm gonna dig down deep, and I'm gonna this happen. And yeah, I had to use a lot of grit, all those hours spending on the cardio machine, hours in the gym, the food I had to eat, and, doing all the necessary things that it was going to take. Finally got to August and was able to compete in the show, and won my novice class, and then I almost won the overall, especially in the bodybuilding division, which was really cool. But, for me, just being able to accomplish a lifetime goal, I needed a lot of grit, and a lot of setbacks happened up until that particular point. So I really had to go to a place to really dig down deep, really make sure that I was able to stay focused, keep my eyes on the prize, and really it's just the progress I was able to see day in and day out. Pushed me then to take the next leap, which is get, beyond that first show, going into the second show, all during the pandemic, which most people weren't doing that. I'll just tell you that. So for me, using grit was so important. I learned that from a variety of different people, and if you ever heard of David Goggins' story, his story, especially in his book Can't Hurt Me, man, you'll learn a lot about that guy and his mindset, especially the places that he goes, and compete into some of those marathons, and also him being in the military and going through buds more than once. It's absolutely insane, but he's the epitome of what grit is all about. And many other people's story that, especially dealing through injuries and playing through those very things, or people who've had to overcome immense loss. I can of course relate to that, especially as I'll kind of get into in another podcast and everything else. Especially I had to deal with the setback of dealing with my the loss of my twin daughter, and it was the toughest thing I'll ever go through in life. I'm never going to wish that on anyone. But I had to dig down deep because my other daughter was also fighting for her life as she was going through the process, going through the NICU journey. So I had to use a lot of grit, I had to use a lot of discipline basically to really stay on track and make sure to kind of keep things afloat for my family. So one of the things I want you to kind of take away for today, especially when it comes to grit, is really a lot of times what will activate your grit is really just finding your passion. Find things that you love to do day in and day out, you don't get tired from. That's going to be the key thing for you. And then also make sure to set big goals, but then make sure to do all the things necessary that's going to help you get towards that goal day in and day out, because that's eventually over time you're going to get there. And then also be persistent. Grit gets activated through persistence, knocking down the door, continue making those calls, continue pushing towards meetings, continue to keep reaching out, even when you'll get maybe 100 no's, and you make that next reach out to maybe a particular platform you're wanting to be able to get more notice on or anything else, and then respond back to you. So it's so important. You got to have the endurance to stay past it. So I hope we took a lot out of today. I just wanted to kind of take a moment to really just kind of talk about this topic, because I think it's important, especially all the things that are going on around the world. You're going to need a lot of grit to kind of push past a lot of distractions and things that are going on. So hope you enjoyed it. Be on the lookout for the next episode that's going to be coming up. We're going to tackle another great topic on the show. But yeah, if you want to learn more, you want to go back and to be able to see the previous episodes, we're on all different platforms, especially on YouTube and Spotify. You could be able to find us there, and then also you can be able to click below, especially the links, to be able to get access to all the different episodes, and also make sure to like and subscribe. It'll also be an opportunity for you to be able to get notified when we're back on again. Alright, so have an awesome rest of the week and everything, and of course, always great being on the Willpower Zone. And remember, staying in the zone is what's going to help you take things to the next level. We'll see you next time.